Hey, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. This week's lesson is all about rhythm fill licks, and really designed to give you some ideas for things that you can do to help you become a more creative rhythm player. It's an important role as a guitar player to be a good rhythm player. And so I'm trying to give you some ideas for things you can do outside of just strumming some basic chords down in first position. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and download the tablature for this and get the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos, you can get all of that by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP324. All right, so the reason that I made this video and created the lesson materials for this week's lesson is to give you some creative ideas for how you might think about playing rhythm. It's one of the most important things you'll learn as a guitar player. And to me, when I'm looking at guitar players, what really stands out as being a top-notch guitar player is somebody that's really solid in the rhythm area. And so anyway, we're going to be learning some rhythm fill licks and some different ideas for how you might think about playing rhythm. A lot of it is just seeing the neck in a different way or thinking about it differently. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to play the jam track. I'll put that on. The jam track is very stripped down. It's just bass and drums. And so you're going to be filling in all the rhythm stuff, which makes it fun. So you can throw in fills and you can do all that fun stuff. And as a premium member, you can obviously download that. But I'm going to play along with it, and I'm just going to play some different rhythm styles just to get you thinking about some of the stuff that you can do as a rhythm player. All right, so I'm going to start off playing some very basic chords down in first position. This is the way a lot of people would approach the rhythm for this. There's your A chord, and then your E chord. So there's three chords. You got an E, F sharp minor, and then your A. Now that's fine, and that's technically playing rhythm, but it's kind of boring. You're just sort of strumming like a jangly kind of way. But what if you're a little more intent on your playing and you accented the 2 and the 4 beat? And this would be something you hear in a lot of R&B music, where you're playing like this. That's an A minor the second time. See how different it sounds? Playing the same chords. It gives you a whole different feel just by playing it in a different timing. So I wanted to kind of point that out. The other thing I want to show you is, instead of playing everything down in first position, what if we were to play those same chords but play them higher on the neck or in different places? This is where the cage thing comes into play. But for example, there's your A minor, and then here's your E right here. So we'll go to that F sharp minor up here. I slid into it. Slid into that one. See, just by sliding into it, you get a different feel. I just sort of accidentally did that. But it's the consistency of it. I did it over each chord that make it sound like a part, as opposed to just a jangly strum that you might do. You're starting to think more like a session player in a way. And so I just wanted to point that out. We're going to get into the lesson now and start breaking down this thing, but I wanted to start with that and just show you there's different ways to think about playing some basic chords. All right, so we're going to start with 3 basic chords. We have an E chord, an F sharp minor, and an A. Those are the 3 chords we're going to be playing over. These are chords that you already know. So now the challenge is, how do you take that and do something more creative with it? So the very first thing that I played was a bass, kind of like a bass fill, like that goes. Now I've been listening to a lot of Carol Kay, who's just an incredible bass player, and I have so much respect for her. I watched several interviews with her on YouTube. And I wanted to write something kind of in her style of bass playing. So I actually started writing this thing on the bass. And I was trying to think like Carol Kay, like the kind of stuff she would do. So I thought that was cool, and I thought it was even cooler to double it up with a guitar. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So what I'm doing is I'm starting up here on the 7th fret, 6th string, and then I come to the 9th fret, and then the 7th fret, 5th string. So it makes a little box there. And then we go back down, 9, 7 on the 6th string, and then the open E string. And what that allows me to do by hitting that open string is take my hand off the fretboard, and I can go anywhere else I want. I could come all the way up here, I could go down to first position, I can go anywhere. So that open note has a lot of advantages. Now the first thing that I played goes like this. And what that is let's start with that. Now, what is this? Well, it's a double stop, so it's a harmonized sixth. There's 6 intervals apart, these two notes. But I'm going to show you how you can get to these anywhere with any chord. It's very simple once you can visualize this. So I've got my ring finger up here on the 9th fret 2nd string, my middle finger's on the 9th fret 4th string. And I'm hybrid picking that. You don't have to hybrid pick it. You can just let your middle finger sort of mute that 3rd string and play it that way with a pick, with a downstroke. I find it easier to use my pick on the 4th string, my ring finger to pluck on the 2nd string, like that. It seems a little more in sync that way. So, okay, so that's the first lick that happens. Now, then after that I go, and that's really easy to play. You're just borrowing the first 2 strings on the 7th and the 9th fret. So all together we have. Now, what is that? Well, remember I said the E chord. I didn't want to play the E chord down in here in first position, and our first chord is an E chord. So I was thinking about the E chord up here. Now that's using the A chord shape out of Caged. So if you took your A chord and just slid it all the way up, and you use your finger as a capo where the nut was, you're now playing an E chord using the A chord shape. Now I didn't play that chord, but I know where my pinky is. Now some people use their ring finger there, but on the 9th fret, if I play strings 2 and 4, and then I slide that down to the 7th fret, see how these 2 fingers are on those frets already when you're playing the chord? I know that I've got these harmonized 6ths that live within that chord. So instead of me playing the chord, I can go like this. It's kind of Steve Cropper style. Now that's a super simple concept, just playing 2 notes like that, but it's very effective as a rhythm. So instead of me playing the E like that, I could do this. Or I could go. I have all these variations instead of me just playing that E chord. So backing up, we have the Carol K intro, and then I have. So now you know where these come from. These are also within the E chord. So they're a harmonized 5th. So they don't sound as pretty, but you can see that when I'm playing that E chord using that A chord shape, and I'm between the 7th and 9th fret, now I have this option. And you hear this in a lot of old R&B. So now you can do all this really cool stuff using this basic A chord shape out of Caged. You can connect both of those to that shape. That opens up a whole new world for rhythm playing. So let's say there was a C chord in a song. You could play. Isn't that pretty? That was just all around that C chord shape. And that's how I think of it. I'm not thinking about what scale that is or anything. I'm just connecting these little licks that I've learned through the years back to some basic chord shapes. And once you get the harmonized 3rds, harmonized 6ths, down and know how they connect to chord shapes, you become this incredible rhythm player that is capable of playing all this really cool stuff, even improvising. All right, so backing up, we have. And then I came down and went. Now what is that? So what I'm doing there is I'm coming down to this. You hear how that sounds like a minor chord? There's your F sharp minor. Remember I said there was 3 chords. We have an E, an F sharp minor, and an A. So I was thinking, since I was already in this position to start this thing, I was thinking, where are my nearest F sharp minors? Well, I've got one here, and I've got one up here. And they're both right next to me, so I could go either way. But I just thought it sounded really cool to go. Kind of goes into that thing, and I've heard that in another song. Some of you will probably leave in a comment what that's from. It's in something, but that was just an easy way to get to that F sharp minor. And by the way, if you check out EP324, I did a whole lesson on the 3 different minor shapes, and so I cover that in detail if you're not sure what I mean by that. But so what I'm doing is I'm actually just playing. Think of your A chord, like your A major bar chord. If you just play the top 4 strings out of that chord, and then you put your pinky down here on, this would be on the 7th fret 2nd string, you're playing the F sharp minor chord. Now what's really cool is, yes, that's an F sharp minor if you have the F sharp minor in the bass, But using that same triad, that F sharp minor triad, if you put an A in the bass, you're playing an A6 chord. So that same chord shape, that same F sharp minor chord shape, is it an F sharp minor or is it an A6? The answer is it's both. It depends on what the bass note is. And so the bass guitar at this point, the first time was playing an F sharp minor. The second time, the third chord I play is an A chord. And so I played the same thing because I now have the A in the bass. So hopefully that makes sense to you, that F sharp minor chord is also an A6 chord. The other way to think about that is you can take any major chord, take your A chord, and whatever its relative minor is, so you go down 1, 2, 3 frets from whatever your root fret is. So if that's your A, 1, 2, 3, that's your F sharp minor. That's your relative minor. Every major chord has a relative minor. So if you play a relative minor chord on top of its relative major chord, you're actually playing a 6th chord. So in this case, it's an A6, which has kind of a jazzy feel. But you can see the same notes with the F sharp minor gives you a very different feel. So I just wanted to take that little side street there. But all of that is kind of irrelevant because I was going on feel. I was going, and then I went, just repeated it for the A, because it's the same thing. I went from the F sharp minor to the A. So to get there though, I slid up and did that same harmonized 6, sliding up to the 9th fret, strings 2 and 4. And then right down to this chord, and you should be able to tell me what that chord is. Well, remember I said there's only 3 chords, so we've gone through the E, the F sharp minor, and the A. So now we're back to the E. And that's just another way of playing the E chord. You have your E chord down here, and you have it up here. This is why caged is so important, because you start to learn your different chord positions. But you can also think of that as there's your D chord shape. If you slide that up 2 frets, same thing, but then I'm adding my ring finger here to the 6th fret 4th string. All right, so let me back up and play this from the beginning. We have, and then I repeat. The only difference is the second time. So I came down chromatically. So I slid up. That's that same little harmonized 6 that lives within your E chord shape. Then I walked it down to the 8th fret and then the 7th fret. Now why does that work? Well, it's just a passing tone. So you're going from here to here. So that's on the way, and that works pretty much anywhere you're playing. If you're playing a lead and you've got you're playing something between 2 notes, you can usually always fill in that extra note in between and have that extra. It gives you a little more of an outside the box type of feel. And then I'm down to the E chord. So that's what I have for this video, and hopefully that gives you some ideas for some creative things you can do, some fill licks and things that you can already start experimenting with. If you're a premium member, definitely check out the jam track. I have a slow version of it as well if you need a slower tempo. Now in the next video, we're going to get into the whole other part. But it's taking some basic chords again, but I'm just gonna continue with this theme and give you some more ideas. And if you're not a premium member yet, check it out. It's super affordable. I've been creating lessons like this for many years, and I do it every Friday, and you have access to the entire back catalog. All right, I'll see you in part 2.